Sorry, I'm trying to stay hype.
Go ahead.
Alright, so I'm going to start off by telling a story, a very personal story to me. There was, in 2012, on May 3rd, my cousin and I were both 16, and she, without telling anybody, decided she wanted to try to adopt something, because she was in a cult that practiced this, and it was where you stopped eating food and thought you could survive by breathing and soaking in the energy of the sun. And she went to bed one night on May 2nd, and on May 3rd she had a heart attack in her sleep, and she died. So the topic I'm going to be informing you guys about today is fad dieting, and I'm going to be doing whatever I can to try to get you to think that you should never do it under any circumstances. So a fad diet is when you start a diet that removes one or more of the major food groups, such as grains, fats, dairy, meat, and things like that. And like examples of this would be for the high protein diet, where you eat nothing but protein bars and meat for weeks on end, hoping that you'll lose weight really fast and build muscle without doing any exercise at all whatsoever. And the grapefruit diet, which is where for 2 weeks you had 2 grapefruits every day, and supposedly you would lose about 30 pounds in those 2 weeks, which isn't healthy in the first place. But now I'm going to tell you why they're bad. So when you try to do something like that, even if you do lose the weight really fast, you will, it's bad to put that kind of strain on your body, because when you go from, say, 230 pounds to 200 pounds, your body hasn't adjusted yet to the new weight that you're at, so it doesn't understand how much blood sugar you should have, how much fat should be in your body, how much energy you should be expending every day. So what you find is, if you do that kind of thing really fast, your risk of chronic diseases will increase dramatically, such as heart disease and ketosis. And ketosis is very similar to like an anorexia, which is where your body will not know what's happening and it will just start eating your major organs, like your lungs, for example. That's the most common first step of ketosis. And you'll find that when you fluctuate, most of the time you'll start something called a yo-yo diet. And that's when you start one of these fad diets where you cut out a major food group and you lose about 20 pounds, and then you go, oh, I lost the 20 pounds, I'm going to start eating McDonald's every day again. So all of a sudden you've got 30 pounds back after only losing 20, and that just throws your body off even more, especially as far as your blood sugar levels go. Because what will happen is, when your blood sugar's off, your energy will be completely out of whack, and you'll find that your liver will often have trouble processing food as well, and you might be constipated or depressed and things like that. So I'm going to compare that now to what a healthy diet looks like. And in a healthy diet, the average man is what I base this on. They are supposed to eat an average of 2,500 calories every day. And that's supposed to be split up over 4 or 5 meals throughout an entire day. So the fad diets, for example, I actually looked it up and compared it and did all the math myself. Since you would only eat about 2 whole grapefruits a day, you would get somewhere around 500 calories in a day. So that gives you a 2,000 calorie deficit on what you should be having, which is bad because these fad diets are supposedly fat reducers, but when you get to that point, they're actually muscle reducers as well. So you're not losing fat, you're losing muscle and water. inside your body. So one of the most common problems with a grapefruit diet was that you would become dehydrated very, very quickly, and you would pass out a lot normally if you continued to do it for a long time. And here's a chart I set up a little comparison chart for these. The healthy diets have about 5 meals a day, whereas a fad diet is 1 or 2. And then the healthy diets, according to the British government, is supposed to be about like fist-sized portions for cereal and rice and things like that. Whereas in a fad diet, they're either really massive portions 2 times a day, or they're really tiny portions 2 times a day, neither of which is really good for you. And in a healthy diet, you will consume things from every single food group, even the new oil group that they added recently. Though you aren't supposed to consume very many oils, it is now a food group and you should be consuming them. And the fad diet, as I said, cuts out 1 or more food groups. And in a healthy diet, you'll find that most people will cheat on their diet, but when you're actually going through a diet that's good for your body, cheating is actually encouraged sometimes because it will give you better mental benefits. Like, for example, it'll make that Big Mac at McDonald's the experience you wanted it to be, instead of feeling like you're gonna die. And in a fad diet, they are extremely strict and don't allow for any compromise at all whatsoever. So you'll end up becoming more depressed than you were in the first place, which can normally lead to even worse eating disorders than trying a fad diet. And a healthy diet is always backed by extensive amount of scientific research, which I cannot stress enough that you should, when looking at a fad diet, see how much research is behind it, because normally a fad diet is only based off of one specific scientist's research, and it worked for 1 or 2 people, and so they say that it's very good for you and works really well, when in fact it really does not, even a little bit. And then the benefits of a healthy diet, by eating healthy, you'll find that you're more productive and that you have more energy most of the time. And if you eat a healthy diet, you will burn more fat than you would have if you did one of these crazy crash diets or fad diets or something like that. And the second that you start eating healthy, your risk of heart disease drops by, I think, 37%. Yeah, 37% of what your chances were before you started your healthy diet, whereas if you start a fad diet, your chances of getting heart disease increase by 76%. And they also decrease chances of getting arthritis, osteoporosis, ketosis, anorexia, and other eating disorders, and they also help prevent depression. And I cannot stress enough how important exercise is to a healthy diet and routine. There is no way that you can possibly be as healthy as you are unless you exercise. It's just not going to happen. And the studies show that people who exercise on a general basis are much healthier and happier than people who do not regularly exercise. This is because when you exercise, it releases endorphins in your body and different types of things like dopamine and hormones, and that makes your brain light up in spots that show that you are very happy. Whereas if you don't eat enough and never exercise and sit in your room all day, you will have parts of your brain, the neurons will start to deteriorate because they won't be getting as much of a chemical that goes to the brain while you sleep. And they actually did a study with baseball players where they took one group and they made them eat hamburgers post-workout from McDonald's, and the other group ate normal healthy food, and they showed that with the exercise that the baseball players were doing, they actually had a better bounce back from eating the hamburgers from McDonald's than they did from eating the healthy food. So that shows that exercise gives you even more leniency on your diet. And to conclude, I wanted to say that fad diets are extremely unhealthy and you should never try one under any circumstances, period. And in extreme cases, they can even cause death. But if you do a healthy diet and exercise regularly, you will not only lose weight, but you will feel even better than you did before you started.
Thanks, Tom.